Hey friends, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about my new book, Negotiation Made Simple. For the past 20 years, I have helped business people put together important deals, lawyers settle big lawsuits, small business owners grow their business by getting the most value for their product possible. And through this, I've learned a process on how to use negotiation to deliver outstanding deals. This particular book is those 20 years and everything I've learned about negotiation that's packaged in a very practical guide for solving problems, building relationships, and delivering the next deal. I hope you will jump in, buy this book, read this book, put it to work, and in doing so, you will be equipped to get better negotiation outcomes and to get what you want, not only in business, but in life as well. Go purchase Negotiation Made Simple wherever you buy books and use 2024 as an opportunity to take your next step in your negotiation success. Welcome to Negotiation Made Simple, where we help you master the art of negotiation and win the next deal. I'm your host, John Lowry. This particular episode I am really excited about. I'm going to reflect on something that happened in the sports world yesterday that I think is very significant. Yesterday, Bryson DeChambeau won the US Open golf tournament. I watched it almost every single shot. I spent 4 hours watching this. And in doing so, I began reflecting and realizing that Bryson DeChambeau was teaching us some important lessons about how to deal with people and how to be more effective negotiators. Now, if you're not a golf fan, you may not love this episode, but if you're serious about becoming a better negotiator, I would encourage you to keep listening. Because through the stories that I will tell about what Bryson DeChambeau did yesterday, not only winning the tournament, but how he interacted with the fans, there will be some insights that I think are extremely valuable to becoming a better negotiator and a better leader. So let's jump into this episode where we reflect on what happened yesterday and see what we can learn from Bryson DeChambeau. Real quick, before we jump into this episode, I want to make you aware of a deal that is being offered by Audible. Audible right now is offering Negotiation Made Simple for 55% off the normal price. I don't know how long this deal will last, but I hope that if you're ready to listen to Negotiation Made Simple and become a more sophisticated negotiator, you will take advantage of this special offer by Audible, and I would encourage you to go download it now. Yesterday was Father's Day. It was a really exciting day for dads across the world, but it was also an exciting day if you were a sports fan. There were so many sports on last night, the Olympic trials, but then there was the US Open golf tournament. And this is one of golf's big tournaments every single year, one of the 4 majors. And this did not disappoint. It was at Pinehurst number 2, one of the historic, legendary golf courses that have ever existed. It was playing really, really hard. And here you had Bryson DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy literally take it down to the final putt to see who was going to win this tournament. Now, interestingly enough, there was something about this tournament that I actually think is a really powerful lesson for us as negotiators. And so you may think, what on earth does Rory McIlroy or Bryson DeChambeau, these golf legends, what do they have to teach me about negotiation? But this lesson actually started a couple of weeks ago when I had the opportunity to go to the PGA Championship at Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, Kentucky. And I went that day really taking my sons and just wanting to enjoy the day with them. But I began observing something with Bryson DeChambeau that was really interesting to me. I think many people, didn't really think much of him prior to going into that moment. He wasn't my favorite golfer, wasn't my favorite personality. I wasn't really drawn to him. In fact, I was a little kind of put off in terms of just how he held himself, I guess you might say. But what I saw a few weeks ago was radically different. And it was something that got my attention, and it was something that drew me to him in a way that I really couldn't even explain. Now, both my sons absolutely loved him, and they were fired up to see Bryson, and they were definitely in his camp, wanting him to win, wanting him to do well. He was certainly a favorite in the car ride to the tournament. I was more interested in some of the older guys and really wasn't paying much attention to Bryson until I got there and they wanted to watch him. And I began just watching him play, watching him interact with the crowd. Now, where this applies to negotiation is as negotiators, we have both our style and we have our substance. And I've talked about this before on the podcast about how your style doesn't always have to match your substance. And what I mean by that is you can be very aggressive, you can be very ambitious, and yet at the same time, you can also be a very cordial, a very gentle type person and personality. You can be someone that people want to be around, that people want to deal with, even though you may not give in terms of the substance, even though you may not give people all that they want in terms of the value in the deal. And yet, I think there is a magic here that Bryson DeChambeau tapped into. And as a result, he has literally transformed his career and transformed his image in front of the entire world. Now, last night, I listened to the interviews, and I was impressed with every single word that he said. And what he said that was really interesting was he said that YouTube played a big part in his transformation. And really that had to do with the performance, because he talked about how on YouTube, when he's able to kind of turn on the camera, if you will, and entertain people with his golf skills, how that is translated to the course and how he sees himself being able to do the same thing. But I think there's actually something deeper going on that I'm sure that Bryson understands, and I'm sure others understand as well. But it has to do with where his focus is. His focus is actually on other people. And you saw it in his behavior, you heard it in his comments, and you could see it just in his demeanor throughout the time that I watched him at the PGA Championship and throughout his winning of the US Open last night. So let me give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. And what I think this is illustrative of is this idea that we can develop this people-oriented, others-oriented style in terms of how we do business, how we put deals together, how we solve problems. But we can do it in a way to where we don't sacrifice what we're trying to achieve from a value standpoint, from a deal standpoint, from a term standpoint, all of that. And so here you had Bryson DeChambeau, this fierce competitor, this person that wanted to win, someone who was super ambitious, someone who lives and breathes getting better at the game of golf and being at the top of the game of golf. This is someone that brings so much competition to the substance of what he does. And yet before, he kind of drove people crazy with it. But what he's developed is he has developed this understanding and this positioning of that drive and that ambition in a way that goes to entertain and to serve and to make other people feel great. And as a result of that, I think he's captured the magic, and it'll be fascinating to see how long it lasts. to where people are drawn to him. People want him to win because of what Bryson is doing for them. It's the same in negotiation. To where, again, we've talked about how people's egos are the biggest decision-making factor. And if you can play to their ego, they're more likely to say yes to what you're looking for them to do within the context of the deal or the negotiation. And it's the same with what Bryson DeChambeau exhibited. So let me give you a few examples, some of which the media have picked up on, some of which they have not. I remember on the driving range of the PGA Championship. It was late in the day. There was a bunch of kids lined up ready to get autographs, and Bryson DeChambeau, after his round in the sweltering heat, comes back out to hit more balls, to tighten his game even further. As he walks by all of these kids, all the other players just waved. Some of them didn't even acknowledge the kids. They just walked by. But Bryson came up to him and he said, look, I've got to go hit some balls while I still have some daylight left. He says, but I promise I will be back to sign. And he fulfilled his promise. He came back to these kids. He was out on the driving range and there was probably 100 people watching him. And there was a track man and it was following him on the driving range. And so he was hitting drives. And as a result of that, the distance would pop up on the screen after every ball he hit. And everyone was kind of oohing and awing because what was happening on the screen is it was comparing his drive to the longest drive of the day, which ironically was Rory McIlroy. And so Bryson was hitting him like 338, 339, 340, but I think Rory had got one out there 344 yards, if I remember right. And finally, Bryson picked up on what everyone wanted him to do, and that was try to set the record and to hit one farther than Rory. And so being the showman, he turned around and he said, you want me to break the record? And everyone cheered. And he said, all right, let's break the record. I loved even the language he used of saying, let's, like all of us were a part of this, even though there was only one person hitting the ball. And so now Bryson drove one, put a little extra into it, and he hit it like 349 yards. He broke the record. He did that little moment for the people, the 100 people that were watching him with absolutely no cameras at all, just for those people and their experience. Now that driving range became famous because that's where he was when Xander Schauffele won the PGA Championship. And the media did catch this moment where Bryson immediately walked off that driving range, immediately walked to the place where Xander would be coming off the green, going to the clubhouse. And he intercepted Xander and he congratulated him for making that putt and winning the PGA Championship. That was not something that he had to do at all. It was actually a pretty long walk through a lot of people. He had to work hard to go express his appreciation for what Xander accomplished, and doing that when he lost by one stroke and was pretty frustrated by it. Again, it was a great show of class, but it was also this idea that he was focused on other people. Then we get to yesterday, and yesterday was chock full of examples. I remember the one that touched me most was the one where he was walking off of, I think it was 13 or 14. The media picked this up as well. And he's walking off the green. He's just made a par, maybe a bogey. He wasn't really hyped up, though. I mean, that wasn't a great hole for him. And so he was walking off a little bit frustrated. And as he was walking to the next tee, he noticed a young man that was in a wheelchair. And you could see that this young man was suffering from some sort of debilitated condition. He was kind of struggling to control himself a little bit, but you could see the big smile on his face when Bryson DeChambeau was walking by. And Bryson stopped. He had a Sharpie in his back pocket, which I thought was interesting. He had that all day, knowing that that was going to be part of his experience that day, was going to be signing autographs for people. He pulled that Sharpie out of his back pocket, and as he gave this kid a high five, he signed his hat. He gave him another high five, put the biggest smile on the young man's face, and then he walked on to the next tee. As far as I know, no other player did that to the extent that Bryson did. Maybe some did, and I didn't see it because I wasn't there. But it was pretty remarkable what Bryson did in that moment on the back nine of a major. When everyone else is trying to dial in and focus, here's Bryson that is seeing the people around him that would be blessed by him taking a second to do something in their lives. Now, Bryson talked about how one of the skills that he's developed is the ability to be able to turn it on and to focus and to dial in when he needs to, when he's about ready to take a shot. But then when he's not in that moment, to be able to wave to people, acknowledge people, talk to people, smile at people, do all the things that people love when you're at a golf tournament and you're interacting with the players. And so Bryson did that. I love what happened after he ended up winning. There was another moment there to where he throws his arms in the air and he's about to celebrate, but then he realizes and he apologizes that he's actually doing this when Matthew Pavon still has one putt to go. And so he composes himself very quickly. He gets the crowd to quiet down to make sure that he sets the stage for his competitor who still has one putt to make. I thought that was an incredible gesture. And then afterwards, in his interviews, with the graciousness that he expressed towards Rory McIlroy, with the appreciation that he expressed to his team and to all the fans and the people that supported him throughout the day, it was just a class act. It was well played all around by Bryson DeChambeau. But the thing that I want us to think about today is the mindset going into that and this recognition that our style and our substance, they're two different things as negotiators, and they're two different things that we can manage to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And so our substance, we can be highly ambitious. We can be super aggressive in terms of what we're looking to accomplish in the negotiation. But at the same time, while doing that, we can also be and bring to the table a personality and an approach and a demeanor and a communication style that is something that people want to be around, that is something that draws people in instead of pushes people away. And that combination right there, I think that combination is what I call the magic. Actually, it's the combination that has been proven most effective in terms of putting deals together by the Harvard Business School, who did this study that I've talked about before in terms of looking at the best salespeople in the world and identifying the two traits of those salespeople. Number one, they were the most ambitious. Number two, they were the most empathetic. I think that's what Bryson DeChambeau showed us yesterday, is what it looks like to be the most ambitious, but at the same time, also being the most empathetic. And whether today you are leading a company or a team of people, perhaps you're representing a client in a very important deal, perhaps you've got all sorts of problems that you need to get solved and you're working through them one by one. If we can bring this formula, being the most ambitious, but also being the most empathetic, then I think this mindset and how it plays out moment by moment, this can set the stage for incredible success. Yesterday, sports gave us a picture of what that looks like through Bryson DeChambeau. But today, you have the opportunity to bless people in your sphere of influence, just like Bryson DeChambeau did yesterday. Maybe it's not hundreds of thousands of people, and maybe the cameras aren't on you, but the influence that you can have, the way in which you can touch people's lives, even though it may not be as many people, it is just as significant in the people that are in your circle. And if you're able to do that, you can put really good deals together. You can capture lots of value. You can make lots of money. You can grow your business. But you can do it in such a way that people will be drawn to you, that people will be cheering for your success and be ready to do anything to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So this is what I love about sports. It's not necessarily the winning or losing. It's not necessarily the athletic performances. But what I love about sports is what happens in terms of people around athletic competition. You get to see the best and you get to see the worst. There are lessons that even if you don't like the sport or understand the sport, you can still appreciate the lessons that sports teaches us. And that's what this episode is all about, is extracting this really powerful lesson from Bryson DeChambeau and his win at the US Open. And as you listen to this, I hope you were inspired as I was to be like Bryson today, to find a way to where we can be super positive. We can do so as we are very ambitious about what is in front of us today that we need to accomplish to grow our business or to move our career forward or to get the deal done. And yet we can do all of this in a way that draws people to us by how we communicate, by how we pay attention, and how we act empathetically. Thank you for listening to Negotiation Made Simple, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.